guys, and welcome to episode number 67 of the Happy Knitting Podcast. My name is Julia, and this is a podcast about knitting and yarn, and sometimes also spinning and sewing. If you're checking me out for the first time, I'm so glad that you're here today. I hope that you like the podcast and maybe you'll subscribe and become a regular viewer. And if you're coming back, thank you ever so much. I really, really appreciate it. You might be able to hear and also possibly see that I have a bit of a cold, but I wasn't going to record today, but I decided to go for it anyways, just because today seems to be one of those days where I'm quite productive and I can't really sit still and do anything else. So I'm just going to give this a go, and please excuse my slightly more croaky voice. So today is the 12th of December 2016. I can't believe it's all like 2 weeks until Christmas. And anyways, I will talk about finished objects, works in progress. I have some acquisitions, and then I'll have a little special segment that I will include if I don't forget. And then I'll talk about life in general in the end. And as always, you can find me on Instagram as the Happy Knitting Podcast. We have a Ravelry group called the Happy Knitting Podcast group on Ravelry, and that's where you'll find the show notes and introduction thread, and there's an Ask Away thread if you have any questions. There's lots of fun threads in there actually. Talking about threads, there's one thing I've been wanting to set up for a while, and that's a thread which I'll title something like Across the Pond Swap or Trade or something. Because what I've been noticing is that obviously I am in Europe, in Germany, and I have met some lovely people who have agreed to send me some yarns that I can't access easily here. For example, Knitpicks Felici or Versity yarns. And I know there's lots of people who would like to do that, and also in the States I imagine there's lots of people who would like to get some more German sock yarn, which is readily available here but not that available and definitely overpriced in the States. So what I thought I would do is set up a thread in the Ravelry group, and there if you guys can either swap or trade or just organize these sort of across the pond swaps. So it's not going to be an official thing. I'm not going to organize anything. I want it to work sort of in the way that you can just write a post about what you would really like to try. And maybe you could also just write what you have to offer. So you could say, I would really love to try some Knitpicks Felici, and I'm happy to trade with some German opal yarn, for example. And it doesn't have to be a Europe States thing, it can be anything you want, but I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity to do that. And if you just want to browse and see if there's anything out there that you like, you can just read the thread as well. I'm not going to moderate it too much. I just wanted to give you guys the opportunity, and if you're interested in that, then just join in. And of course, the more people join, the easier and the more fun it'll be. But if it's not something you're interested in, that's totally fine as well. Also, my personal Ravelry is Wipfi, which is WUEPFI. Oh, and one last thing that I did want to mention about the thread is that, like I said, you guys have to organize it for yourself. I will set up a thread, but I want you guys to talk to each other if you want to trade or swap or do whatever you want. And I don't want to be responsible for anything like things getting lost in the mail or you guys paying each other or something being held up at customs. I just wanted to let you guys know that I'm just trying to facilitate that, because it's been really fun for me to receive things from all over the world and trade. And I know that lots of people are interested in that, but I would just really make sure that that's your responsibility to work it all out and talk to each other and figure it out. So yeah, I just wanted to throw that in there. Let's talk about some finished objects, because I have quite a few. Where should I start? I have 2 pairs of socks. Firstly, I finally finished my boyfriend's Christmas socks, and so far he has not found them. So after I finish recording this podcast, I will lock them away, and if you haven't been watching before, it's sort of like a running gag that I can never knit something in secret for my boyfriend, because he always somehow manages to find out. So far he hasn't found out about these. This is a pair of vanilla socks that I knit on US 1.5 or 2.5 millimeter needles. It's a stockinette sock. I think I did about 15 rows of 1x1 rib at the top, and then 75 rows of stockinette, and a fish lips kiss heel. So just a very, very basic sock because my boyfriend loves vanilla socks. And I don't have the label here to show you, but it's from a German indie dyer who is called Farbenpracht Garne. And I will just link her shop in the show notes because that'll be way easier. She's on Davanda, which is sort of like Etsy, but I think it's more based in Germany. But yeah, I'm really, really happy to have these off the needles. This also was my last Christmas knit that I'll be doing. I might cast on some more Christmas gifts if I feel like it, but this was the last of my gifts that I really wanted and had to get finished. Yeah, these colors are really fun, aren't they? I'm really happy about them, and I know that some people don't like pooling. I completely love pooling. I think these pooled or flashed in a really fun way. So I'm just happy to have these done, and I will lock them away and hope that Kai doesn't find out about them, because I'd love to surprise him with a pair of socks for Christmas rather than him already kind of knowing. I'm sure he knows that he'll be getting something hand knit, but at least he doesn't know the colorway name. And these are a little crinkled because they have been stuffed in a project bag for exactly that reason, so he doesn't find out about them. So that's my first finished object. Also, just this morning I Kitchenered the toe for these socks. These are some socks for me. And they jingle because I have a jingly stitch marker on here. This yarn was from Chili Knits. She has the Chili Knits podcast as well. She's an indie dyer based in Chile, and she's Connie Knits on Instagram. And she sent me this yarn ages ago, and I just couldn't bear to knit with it because it was so special. But I finally knit it up. It's in her core sock base in her Neon Diva colorway, which obviously I love. And I knit these 2 at a time on US size 1 needles, which is a 2.25 millimeter needle. And I hope you can see the colors because this is just crazy colorful. And these were the sort of socks that I actually didn't want to finish because the yarn was just so pretty, and I absolutely loved knitting these socks. And I knit these relatively long. I like to do 80 rows of stockinette. So 100 rows total, including the ribbing for the leg, for my socks. I really like that sort of long leg on my own socks. So I'm happy to have these done, but I'm also sad because the yarn was just amazing to knit with. It's super, super soft. And yeah, I absolutely love these. And again, I did a fish lips kiss heel. I just really felt like knitting vanilla socks. And you can see the stitch marker is where I was last week. So I think I had one heel turned. So I turned the second heel and knit both of the feet. Really happy to have these finished, and I will wear them pretty soon. And then my last finished object is one that you actually haven't seen as a work in progress because I just whipped those up. I've been desperately needing some more mittens, some warm mittens. So I had some Drops Puna, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, which is a 100% alpaca yarn from Drops. I was sent this in a swap and I've been wanting to try it. So I decided to knit some fingerless mittens, and this is what they look like. I just put them on. I have a free pattern called How I Knit My Fingerless Mitts on Ravelry, which is basically just a recipe for knitting fingerless mittens out of fingering weight yarn. And this is a DK weight yarn, so I just kind of adapted that. So what I did is I cast on 42 stitches. And as you can see, I have 1x1 ribbing at the bottom, and then I knit the body of the mitten, I suppose, in stockinette stitch. And then this time I knit really long ribbing, so this is folded over. But if it gets really, really cold, I can just move that up, and it still is a fingerless mitten, so I can use my phone and everything, but it just provides that bit of extra warmth. So I can wear it either way. And again, I like my mittens relatively loose, so I can do everything and I don't feel restricted. So that's basically all I did. I whipped these up in one day. I used US size 6 or 4 millimeter needles. And I'm really, really happy. I've actually been wearing these for quite a while now. And the yarn is quite fuzzy, as you might be able to see, which I really like, except that when I was knitting on them, I had to sneeze so much. So I don't think I'll be able to knit a sweater out of this yarn because it's just a little bit too fuzzy for me, and I don't want to be sneezing for weeks when I knit the sweater. But yeah, these are finished. I put more exact details on how I knit these exactly on my project page if you're interested in recreating it. But yeah, I'm really happy with them. The colorway was colorway number 4, and I think all of the Drops Puna colorways are sort of like neutral shades, which I really like. So I'm happy to have these done, and I might just keep on wearing them because they're really nice and comfortable. And my other pair of fingerless mitts is in fingering weight yarn, which is nice but not great when it's super, super cold. So with that, I will move on to wax in progress. And I feel like it's getting that back pretty quickly again, so I try to hurry. Last week I was barely able to show you my sweater because it was kind of at an awkward stage. But this week I can actually show it to you. This is the Breathing Space sweater by Vera Välimäki. I think this is the front. I think it's quite a popular pattern on Ravelry. It's a top-down sweater with raglan increases, as you can see here. It's knit in fingering weight yarn. And as you can see, I have separated for the sleeves and am knitting on the body now. So I'm using 2 colors, and they're both Drops yarns. They're Drops Flora, which is a relatively new yarn, I think. It is the same as their Lima base, which is an alpaca wool blend, that it is in fingering weight yarn, whereas Lima, I believe, is a DK. So you can see, this is the end of my first ball of my main color, which is the gray. So I've used up just 50 grams of that now, and the way that the sweater is shaped is you just have a basic raglan construction, and then you can see there's horizontal stripes, and then you create short rows, and you kind of knit the rest of the sweater on a bias. So I'm not sure how well I can show it to you without having a bigger cable. Oh, this is not great. But essentially I have finished all the short rows and now have just joined back in the round. So now the stripes are just gonna be like more diagonal. This is really hard to show. Maybe I can show it to you better on the back side. You can kind of see the short rows. And I've basically just followed the pattern to a T. I know there's lots of discussion about which short row technique is the best, but I just do the very, very basic wrap and turn method that is actually in the pattern as well. And yeah, that worked really well for me. I'm knitting a size small. I probably would have knit a size medium if I had more yarn, just because I like my sweaters to be a little oversized, but I didn't have enough yarn. So I'm doing a size small, and I have tried it on and it fits perfectly. I'm hoping it'll block out a tiny bit just because I like to have some space in my shoulders, like here. But yeah, it works really well. I have not adjusted or changed anything at all. My numbers seem to be working perfectly as well. And I didn't even do a gauge swatch. I'm a terrible knitter. I didn't do a gauge swatch. But I kind of checked my gauge when I had knit a little bit just to see if it's relatively on point, and it was. I'm knitting this on 3.5mm needles, which is a US size 4, and I believe that's what the pattern called for. And what I do is when I did separate for the sleeves, I put these on spare cables from my interchangeable set. I'm actually not knitting on my interchangeable set. I'm using Adelaide fixed circulars for the body, but these cables are just really, really good for holding your stitches until you attach the sleeve. So that's my Breathing Space sweater by Vera Välimäki. Next, let me show you some socks. In my Christmassy bag, which is also jingly, and this is from Kim of Golden Yarns, I have my Regia Perfect socks that I was already showing you last week, and I have a hoe. I finished the first sock, and I talked more in detail about how this yarn works last week, so I'm not going to go into too much detail this week. But this is Regia Perfect, which is a yarn that is dyed, so it gives you 2 identical socks. So you have the striping on the leg, and then when you finish the last stripe, you put in your heel. I put in a Fish Lips Kiss heel, and then you just knit the foot in the solid color. So I just thought these were really fun, and as you can see with the stitch marker, hang on, no, that stitch marker isn't accurate. I believe I have no idea where I was last week. But I finished the first sock. Yeah, this might have been where I was last week. And these are also for me. I did 64 stitches on a 2.25mm US size 1 needle. And I have since cast on for the second one, but as you can see, I've barely finished the first stripe after the ribbing. So I'm just knitting away on these whenever I have time. I'm not really in a rush to finish these, but it's a stockinette sock, so it flies off my needles relatively fast. I usually knit two pairs of socks at the same time at least, and for one pair it usually takes me about 2 weeks to finish one, which is the perfect time for me to not get too bored, but also not knit too monogamously as well. So I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this. I only caked this up because the ball that it came in was very, very tangled, but you could have otherwise probably knit from the ball as it came. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about these. Nothing super special, but I'm really happy with it, and I mentioned last time that I think this yarn is really fun, and they have lots of different colors. This is colorway number 7117, and I feel like it's called Candy or Candy Cane or something. Probably not Candy Cane, something candy, but it doesn't say that name on the label, unfortunately. So that's my pair of socks from Regia. Next, I have a new cast on. Over the weekend, we took a trip to see my family, and I was not looking forward to the train journey, so I decided to cheer myself up and do a train cast on. So I cast on a yarn that I've been wanting to cast on essentially ever since I got it. This yarn is from Shibot Garne, who is one of my favorite German indie dyers. And all my stitch markers are attached to the logo. Anyways, this is her carriage. She's in Germany. And the yarn that I'm using is in her soft sock base in the Hula Hoop colorway. And it is this awesome bright skein of oranges and purples and yellow, and I just love it. And I think I've talked about before how much I love her soft sock base. I have knit some blueberry waffles socks out of that exact yarn, and they've held up so well, and it's pretty much the only yarn, the only sock yarn that I have knit socks out of that doesn't stretch out at all. Even if you wear it for 3 days, the socks will still be in perfect shape, and it's super cuddly. It's sort of a thick fingering weight, so this time I actually went up to a 2.5mm needle, and it still produces a very thick fabric. So I cast on some blueberry waffle socks, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I always forget to mention that it's written for DK or worsted weight, I believe, but you can just increase the stitch count and knit it in fingering weight as well. So because I'm using slightly bigger needles than I usually would, I cast on 60 stitches, and I'm just knitting the blueberry waffle pattern. I think is it by Sandy Turner? Not quite sure. And this is essentially what I got done on the train and when we got back on Saturday night. So totally loving the yarn. It is so much fun. I can't wait to work on this a little more. And yeah, I just love the blueberry waffle pattern. I think it's one of my favorite patterns to wear because, yeah, like I said, it's just perfect, and it's good for gifts as well because of the rib-like texture. It just is very comfy and fits a foot better than maybe a vanilla sock would. Yeah, so I'm super happy. It is showing up a little bit more orange than I think it is in person. In person it seems a little bit more purple and pink. But yeah, I love it. I'm very happy with it. Next. I actually have no idea what's in here. Oh yeah, I remember. In here is another cast on. It's a shawl that I've been wanting to cast on for ages, but I've kind of been forcing myself to finish my Christmas knitting first. But it is the Close to You pattern by Justina Lokowska, which is a free pattern on Ravelry, and I've just been wanting to knit that for so long. And it's sort of a pattern that you can use with any skein of fingering weight yarn. I think it works for speckled, for solid, for variegated yarns very well. And it's like a one skein wonder. So I've cast on finally. It is a garter stitch shawl, as you can see, that is knit on the bias, and then you have this, in my case, very crumpled up edging, which you just knit on as you go, which means that you can just kind of knit until you have run out of yarn or you want to bind off, and there's no hassle or anything attached to it. And I'm so excited about this, especially because I'm using some lovely yarn. This yarn is from Twisted Threads, yarns, who is Stacy. She sent me this yarn a couple of weeks back to try, and she also sent me a skein to give away, which I will do in the new year. So here's her card. Am I showing you the right way up? No. Twisted threads. And this is in her awesome sock base, which is a 9010 merino nylon. And the colorway is Sierra Sunset. And this was a huge skein when it came. I didn't weigh it because my my scale actually doesn't have any batteries. But I feel like this was more than 100 grams. It's 480 yards. So yeah, this is how much I've done so far, not that much, but I'm just enjoying this so much, and I feel like already this is going to be one of those staple patterns that I'll be knitting a lot of times. And I went down in needle size. I'm using 3.5 millimeter needles, which is a US size 4, simply because I like knitting fingering weight yarn out of on a US 4 needle, and I have enough yarn, so I don't think it'll be too small either way. So yeah, that's my last knitting work in progress. And then I, of course, also have my crochet blanket. And this is getting quite large. So let me try to show it to you. My crochet hook is, oh God, I've made a mess. There we go. So this is my blankets at the moment. It's kind of hard to show you guys because I have a crochet hook and yarn attached to it. But yeah, it's quite big. So I'm just making a giant granny square. As I've talked about before, I'm not using one specific pattern, but I've just kind of combined a few German tutorials that I found on the internet. But there's lots of tutorials on YouTube and on Ravelry, and just if you Google granny square, I'm sure you'll find a million instructions for this. And I'm just making a scrappy blanket out of my sock scraps. So last week I had finished this red stripe here, which is from Valkyrie Fibers. And I finished this tiny row, which was a Faber Drops sock yarn. Then I put in a row of Bärenwolle mini that I was sent a while ago. I think it was called Fancy Cocktail. And then the green, I am pretty sure is a Malabrigo sock yarn, but I'm not quite sure. The yellow one is sparkly, and I have no idea what that was, but that was really, really pretty. And then I put in 2 rows of this mini. I got a set from Rosie's Moments. I believe that Katrina sent this to me last year. And it's funny because when I was knitting these into my blanket, into my mitered square blanket, I found the yarn quite rough to work with. But with the crochet, it actually turned out quite nice. And now what I'm knitting on right now, crocheting on right now, is a mini from Wolkenschaf, which I used to knit a pair of socks. They were actually my master thesis socks because I wore them the day that I finished, handed in my master's thesis a couple of months back. So I'm at the point where I need quite large minis to do more than one round, and I'm not always completing rounds. Sometimes I just join on another yarn and go. So it's not completely like symmetrical anymore, but I don't care. I love it, and I love that it's getting quite big. I feel like this is growing really, really, really fast, and it's a lot heavier already than my sock yarn blanket was at this stage. This just kind of eats the yarn a lot more, and yeah, I'm really addicted to it. I think I spent pretty much all of last night after we got back from my hometown just watching podcasts and crocheting on this, and it's just such a comforting project to work on, and I absolutely love it. And I'm using a 4mm hook, which I believe is a G hook, but don't quote me on that. So that's it for my works in progress, and I will move on to acquisitions quite quickly because I want to at least show you all the things while I have relatively good lighting. I'm saying relatively because it's not great already. So I went to a yarn store, and you know how the story ends. I really knew I shouldn't go because I knew I was going to buy stuff, and I did. But I grabbed one skein of yarn that I've been wanting for a while. This is Ferner Wolle, and I'll show you the label close up in a second. It's an Austrian yarn brand, and they have really, really nice sock yarn. So this is colorway number 2 in their Sommernachtsreigen line, I suppose. So this is what the label looks like. The company is called Ferner Wolle. And one of my local yarn stores carries this, which I really, really love. I knit my boyfriend a pair of socks out of this yarn before in a yellow and green, and they are his favorite socks ever, and pretty much nothing will ever get close to that because he loves them so much. So I thought it was time to get a skein for myself. And also, if you can't tell, I love these colors. These colors are completely out of my comfort zone, but they remind me of the phone game Plants vs. Zombies. So I just thought that was hilarious. If I remember, I'll put in a photo here so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And they had a sample knitted up and it just looked really, really awesome. So I grabbed this for myself and I have no regrets at all. And this is a sock yarn. I think it's a 75-25 virgin wool polyamide. So it's just a very basic sock yarn, but it is quite soft. And I thought that was going to be it for acquisitions, but then today I got a package that arrived a lot faster than I thought it would. And it came from a lovely viewer, Hazel, who is from Singapore but lives in Switzerland at the moment, and she had contacted me when I mentioned that I didn't have any MCN yarn, I should say I received a skein of MCN yarn a couple of weeks back. And that's when I mentioned that I had never knit with MCN before. Sorry, my throat is not happy. And anyways, she said that she likes to dye yarn for herself and her friends, and she would like to dye me some colorways in MCN yarn, which is just insane. So I'll show you the yarn first. She dyed me up 2 skeins of merino nylon cashmere yarn. And the first one, can you see how amazing these colors are? She called it Candy Crush, which is perfect, absolutely perfect. And it's 80% merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. And it is so lovely. And can you see the speckles? It's got the most beautiful speckles. Hazel is so talented. I already told her I feel like she should be selling these yarns because they're just amazing. And then she sent me another skein. And this one she called, let me see, Party in a Storm. It's the same base. And you can see it's also very speckly, but on a much darker sort of base color. And these are so amazing. I could totally see these working together, but also separately, or I might combine this with a more crazy colorway, which is what Hazel suggested. And yeah, I feel like she totally dyed something that I love. I love the colors. I love, yeah, she's just so talented, and I was ridiculously happy to receive these goodies today. So thank you so much. But of course that's not all she sent, because knitters are amazing. She sent me the cutest packs of mini skeins. And these are so pretty the way they are. I don't really want to use them because, yeah, how cute are these? And she put what yarns they are as well, which is always nice to do, nice to have. I often don't have the patience and I just don't remember the yarns, but I love the thought that went into this. And then she sent me some chocolate because chocolate. So I got the small ones and I also got a big one, and this is not going to last long. Especially at the moment I'm having the biggest chocolate cravings. I just love chocolate at the moment. Maybe it's the whole Christmas thing. And she also sent me some lovely tea. And yeah, I can't believe it. Hang on. It's not focusing, but it's amazing tea, and I drank so much tea. So I feel so lucky. Thank you so much to Hazel. I just got so spoiled, and I really, 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 really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And surprisingly enough, she sent me a card as well. But that's it for my acquisitions, which is good. And I will be back in a second. So next I wanted to talk about a weird sort of topic that I haven't talked about before very much, but I've kind of been thinking about it and been thinking about how to address it. So I'm going to call this the yarn shame segment. And the reason for this is that I feel like about a year ago, people started using the term wool piggery, and it became this sort of thing that when you buy lots of yarn and it's wool piggery, and it sounds like something really, really terrible. And at least for me, what kind of, it might also have to do with the language. I'm not a native English speaker, as you know and can hear, but it's got this negative connotation, which I didn't really like from the beginning. And what happened, and still happens, is that I generally feel bad about buying yarn. Like, I love yarn so much, and it brings me so much happiness, yet I still feel really, really bad when I buy yarn, and I feel almost kind of embarrassed to show you guys because I feel like I'm bragging and I shouldn't be having a stash and I shouldn't be spending money on yarn, and frankly I don't like it. I don't like feeling that way. And it came to a point where last week I bought that skein of yarn that I'm going to call it my Plants vs. Zombies skein, that and afterwards I felt really bad because like I couldn't even be happy about buying the yarn. I just felt bad because I bought more yarn and I felt like I didn't need it. And it's so stupid because it is something that makes me happy. Yet I said, okay, I'm going to do a yarn diet. And what happened? I bought more yarn. I ordered something yesterday, and you know what? I realized I love knitting and it's bringing me so much joy, and I'm currently in a place where I can buy that skein that I really wanted. So I'm just not going to feel bad about it anymore. I'm not going to feel yarn shame. So I know that is something that I'm entirely putting onto myself. It's not that anyone is saying you're a terrible person if you buy yarn or if you don't buy yarn or if you spend too much money. It's totally my perception. But I just wanted to address it because I feel so happy with that. I know that I can't go out and be buying all the things all the time because that just wouldn't work, and I just don't have that much money, and yeah, it wouldn't be special anymore. I'm always going to treasure yarn, but I just refuse to feel bad about buying yarn anymore because frankly I am very both me and my boyfriend, we both save money. We both save a lot of money by living simple and, you know, not driving fancy cars, and we have sort of the priorities that we don't like to spend unnecessary money. And it might be hard to believe, but yarn buying is pretty much the only time when I really splurge. Probably yarn buying and travel. We both really value travel, but besides that, and I love knitting so much. In fact, at the moment, every morning, I am so happy to get up to be knitting. And when I have to go out of the house in the morning, I am so happy to get up an hour earlier than that, just to sit down and knit or crochet in my blanket. And it is bringing me so much happiness. And yeah, I'm just going to try to free myself from the guilt that comes with buying, because it's something happy. And if I acquire something, I will love it rather than feel bad about it. And actually, the same thing goes for gifts. I love doing swaps and getting gifts from you guys, and at the same time it is a source of unhappiness for me because I feel really bad and I want to reciprocate, but I can't reciprocate with everyone because that just wouldn't work and it just would be too much. So again, with swaps, I love it, and at the same time I feel like I feel bad and I don't deserve it. And yeah, I'm just going to really try to buy yarn that makes me happy and be purposeful about what I buy. So instead of buying 5 skeins, because then I get the shipping for free, I will buy the one thing that I really, really love, but then I will feel good about it, and I won't be calling it piggery because it is my hobby. And I always think there's always going to be people who have more, and there's also going to be people who have less, and it is totally up to you. I know that some people don't like having a stash because it weighs them down, and other people maybe love having a huge stash to have all the options. And of course it depends on your situation. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to spend so much time knitting in the future. Probably not, but at the moment I feel like I have so much time because I am on the job hunt, and why not fill the time with something that I love? So I'm saying no to the yarn shame, and I'm not sure if this makes any sense to any of you, but that's just how I feel. And I'm not saying that any one of you guys makes me feel bad about buying yarn, but that's just how I feel. And the same thing goes with buying yarn and showing it on the podcast. Sometimes I feel really bad when I have lots to show, but then you guys tell me that you really like seeing all the acquisitions. And I guess if you don't, then you don't have to watch it. I mean, that's why I have segments, and not everyone's going to like everything. So yeah, I'm just going to try to be more positive about that and not feel bad if I spend money on something that I love. So yeah, that's my little yarn shame rant, and that rant is over now. And if that didn't make any sense at all, that's fine. Don't worry about it. And with that, I will move on to life in general. So if you're not interested in that, feel free to just leave here. And thank you so much for watching. And if you are staying around, I'm just going to talk a little bit about what happened this past week. And every week it is the same thing. I really forget what I have done. But essentially it's been a week of lots of fun social activities. On Wednesday I made some Christmas cookies. Actually, I just decorated the Christmas cookies with my friend, and we're both knitters, so we decorated little stockings and socks and mittens, and that was really fun, and I posted a photo on Instagram about that. And then on Saturday we took the train to see my family in my hometown, which is Rothenburg up to Tauber. It's sort of like a tourist attraction. It's a very popular day trip activity, so when I posted a photo on Instagram, lots of people commented that they had been there before, and yeah, it's a really cute place. But that's actually where I grew up. And it was my littlest sister's prom. So on Saturday night we dressed up and we went to her prom, and they had classical dancing and stuff, and it was really, really fun. We went with my family and my boyfriend, and my sister also had her French exchange student who's in Germany for a week. So that was really good because I used to learn French, but then I just haven't used it since finishing school. But I really like languages and I like French, and it was fun to speak French, and it was incredibly frustrating because while I understand quite a lot, I can't speak very well anymore because I just forget all the words and the grammar. But it was really noticeable after 24 hours. I was getting into it and it was a lot of fun. So then we drove back. We picked up my car, which was at my parents' place, and we drove back down to Munich last night. And already on the weekend my sister had a cold and I seem to have caught it, but it seems that it's just a 24-hour sort of thing. I'm already feeling pretty good again. So thanks to everyone who sent me well wishes, but I'm not dying or anything. It's just a standard cold. It's not too bad. And today I was planning to just hang out, but ended up doing lots of things actually, and I sent out another job application, which I'm excited about. No news again from on the job front, but I'm hoping that'll change soon. I mean, at the moment it's almost Christmas, and all the big firms and clinics and everyone is just trying to finish up for the year, so there are not a lot of things happening, I believe. But I'm hopeful that in January everything will pick up again, and yeah, I have a few things that I'm still waiting to hear back from, so fingers crossed. That's pretty much it for my life in general section, so I will just be recording again next week, next Monday. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to hear from you. Join us in the Ravelry group. We have lots of activities going on there. And I hope you have a wonderful week. If you're celebrating Christmas, I hope that you're in the holiday spirit. And happy knitting. See you next week. Bye.